Multidimensional. This is my bi-weekly live show, and this is episode number 7. It is June 16th, 2020. So thank you for joining me here. I realize there might be a little bit of a delay as some of you are just joining us. So if you can hear me, please do say hello in the chat and let us know where you are on this beautiful jewel of all right, so a little bit of background. This show exists to support humanity as it takes its next evolutionary leap. I am your host, Asia Andromeda. I'm the founder of multidimensionalu.com. I share on the show encouragement and inspiration from my own multidimensional self. It's this encouragement and inspiration in your own inner tech transfer that we're really after here. And hey guys, I see you here now. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi Candy, hi Clarity. I think I'll always just give a little brief background on the multidimensional self, because I realize that's still kind of a new concept, foreign concept for a lot of people still. And again, I always speak from my own direct experience. So that's what you'll hear me referencing all the time. You can catch up on past episodes of the show at multidimensionalu.com/show. And yeah, like I said, we're up to 7 now. This was a divine directive I received last year, and then I dragged my feet until it became abundantly clear that it was time to really bring multidimensional remembering back into the collective. So, hey Sarah, hey Gina, hi Alicia, hi Stephanie, Jeannie, Mariana, nice to see you all here. Thanks for joining us. And then just a couple quick announcements. So we're just under a week out from the solstice event. So I've got Sujilite, and you can see, well, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see, but I picked up some really powerful Moldavite over the weekend. If you look up that stone, you'll see why that's such a great stone to bring in kind of a higher octave of light codes. And a lot of what we're doing on these mass meditation events are shifting the light quotient on the planet. We are helping humanity clear out a lot of distortion and move into the next octave of their embodiment. So by shifting into a different set of vibrational coordinates. So the end game here is bringing heaven to earth, simply meaning we're helping our collective consciousness shift into its next octave of its embodiment, right? That's the evolution we're always talking about. When I was younger, I did not understand that meant more than physical evolution, right? It really means a lot more than that. It's quite literally using our plasmic field of consciousness to build a new reality, a new earth, because we are not separate from this reality. We are constantly projecting our plasmic field of consciousness and creating a reality around us. So I don't know about you all, but I would much rather create something much more fun, exciting, innovative, based in love, compassion, kindness, than a lot of what we have been experiencing as we gain a new level of awareness about the extent to which we went down the rabbit hole in a descension cycle, and now we're moving back up towards source on an ascension cycle. Okay, so the solstice. I went on a tangent there. The solstice is this Saturday, at least in my time zone. I really realized for the Australians, this will be in the morning for you on the 21st, but still within the solstice energy, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time on June 20th. And you can go to the multidimensionalu.com, and there's a link to buy some tickets for that, just right up there on the homepage. What else? I have been doing another announcement, Friday live meditations. We'll be doing our 3rd Friday live this June. I realized, again, it's time to help stabilize the field using our multidimensional fields of consciousness. So you may have caught the last 2. We'll be doing that 3rd one here on June 19th. And those of you who've been commenting are clearly having some profound experiences. So thank you for participating in those. And then finally, some really exciting news. If these global mass meditation events you find exciting, if these kind of Friday live meditations that we've been doing, you also find really rewarding to participate in, YouTube just today approved my membership program. So in addition to Earth Recovery Team, which does really powerful planetary kind of multidimensional mission work in partnership with the world's water systems, there's another way to engage with the work now, which is what's really become clear to me is that the extent to which each individual human has distortion and wounding and trauma in their field, they cannot project a holographic reality that is a higher octave of New Earth, of their own personal embodiment. And so these monthly meds is what they're going to be called, are designed, right? They're channeled meditations and energy clearings and activations to really help everyone start to clear the gunk and move into such a different level of your embodiment, right? Start to activate the multidimensional self and be, a much stronger light quotient frequency. And just to clarify, when I say light, I don't mean that dark is bad. Light and dark, right? We've got these two co-creative forces. I simply mean that we're going to really clear out density and distortion. So that's on the YouTube channel. There's a little button there now, join, if you want to check that out. All right. Nice to see everyone here. Hey, Phil, thank you so much for the donation. That's right. We're just going to keep the waves going. Yeah, it's an intense time for sure. And so today, we're going to dive right in here after I talk a little bit about the multidimensional self again into the channeled material that I channeled for myself personally over the weekend in an attempt to understand what kind of response is most appropriate at this time in order to serve humanity. So I'll get to that here in just a second. Let me just revisit the multidimensional self for people who are new to the channel and are kind of thinking, what is this lady talking about? In my direct experience, I went through a profound series of awakening events over the last 12 years that brought me into a remembering, a greater awareness around me that my human self is, and this physical body is just one fractal, one individuated expression of an enormous field of consciousness. And there are many, many different fractals expressing in different star systems, all over in different forms, and then also reside on different dimensional levels and don't even have form, right? Being more in the state of geometries, light, sound, and harmonics. So that's just a brief intro to the multidimensional self, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And the reason why that's so powerful, beyond sort of, beautiful vision in your pineal gland and experiences, is that we then have access to incredible inner tech transfer. So my ability to heal, to perceive what a problem is in someone's field by simply just asking and then receiving the information. All of this has turned itself back on over time by tapping the wisdom of my multidimensional self. So that includes other forms and other star systems, highly advanced galactic civilizations, as well as even my own past lives as Celtic priests, shamans, the powerful keepers of medicine that in this lifetime, you can't fit it all in one lifetime. So you develop kind of an archival repository that you can draw upon. And that's what so many of you and me are. You are these amazing starseeds with profound experience who are here to help humanity as it, makes this next big evolutionary leap. So with that in mind, let me share some of the information that I channeled this weekend. So it was the Arcturians and the Pleiadians were also present, but mainly the Arcturians. I have a very strong relationship with the Arcturians, Arcturians, if you're not sure how to spell that. They contacted me in 2016. I just kept hearing that word and I had never, in my mind, and I had never heard of it. So I went and Googled it, and sure enough, they're a beautiful advanced galactic civilization who are lending a hand to us now. All right, so here's an excerpt from this conversation I had with them over the weekend. As so much pain and suffering now surfaces, you are being asked to lead the movements intended to catapult humanity from a less evolved awareness into greater sovereignty. The key word is freedom. What people seek is freedom from this pain and suffering, but they do not yet comprehend that externalized conflict with others is not how they will arrive there. You are being asked to help humanity redirect this pain and suffering into the inner alchemy of personal transformation. This quite literally means that a person is who goes into the path of evolutionary change cannot be the person who comes out. I'm going to take a moment here before I continue to read the excerpt to really explain this. This is really good to get your head wrapped around this. So the people that we are now, the identity construct, the personality construct that we hold now, we cannot maintain that construct because, yeah, what they're showing me right now is that it's a bioenergetic construct that has very defined borders, limiters, rejectors. Information comes in, it bounces out. So we cannot maintain that same field of identity as we go through this process. So people entering into conflict right now in our collective who have an established adult identity, if they are not willing to have the neural flexibility to let go of their personality construct, we will just, nothing will change. So it's really important to understand that the conflict is not out there, it's in here. And it's really our job now to continually redirect. You know, if we have an issue with something, we're looking out there and we need to redirect that and bring it back and look in here. And what about our own bioenergetic personality construct is creating distortion, density, conflict, resistance, projection. Okay, so I'll continue the excerpt now. If people stay within their current identity constructs without reflection, let alone energetic dissimulation, nothing will change. Nothing will change. I had to actually look up dissimulation. I learned new words when I channel. It means concealment or hiding. So that's exactly what they were just showing me, is that we have these constructs that act as an energetic shield or mask, and it's not really our true self. You know, in all these years of coaching I've been doing in the emergence experience, that's really been the journey, is we start out with an accumulation of false self-construct, conditioned, programmed roles, identity, habits, thoughts, and all of that we begin to start to loosen and release and eventually transform. But if we're in that kind of concealment, hiding behind our personality, right? So if you look at, just think of someone maybe who really triggers you. What about what they're putting out there? What's the wounding behind that? There's a whole thing that they're trying to hide. And this is kind of an overcompensation, right? Especially when they're in an energy of victim consciousness, blame, and projection, versus honoring their true emotions and trying to communicate those in a way that demands to be heard mainly by themselves first. I'm being shown the nuances of these energy constructs and how we can improve our dialogue as a human race to essentially be heard better and to be able to hear better. So it's a two-way street. All right, I'll continue with the excerpt because obviously, and this is what we're really excited about, right, is evolution. How do we get there? So, quote, the races that have achieved the heights, I skipped a line. So nothing will change. This is a deep dive into one's own accumulated roles, habits, and biases, right? I always end up re-channeling what I already channeled. The races that have achieved, and this means intergalactic races, right? Whole races, whole species of beings that have achieved the heights of evolution, who enjoy a co-creative experience of unity within and without, are those that were able to make this journey deep into their own psycho-spiritual selves and retrieve what was lost in the descension cycle. There it is. That's how we get from here to that next evolved level. Again, it's not out there. It's a deep, profound dive into why am I being so triggered by something? What's my wounding? Just on several group calls recently, I've noticed that, someone's presenting an issue and it's very easy for me to get the exact year it happened. Something went down and it's really up to us to go retrieve. In the shamanic tradition, they call that soul retrieval, right? And to go heal that part of ourselves. So The other thing I was showing as I was, really interested in trying to understand the events that are going on right now, is that the pain and suffering in one group is triggering the pain and suffering in another. The suppressed, the Arcturians are saying you need to say suppressed pain and trauma, because this is not happening at a conscious level. And that's why you're seeing emotions go so high. So one group is speaking their truth about their pain and suffering, and it's bringing that to the field. And by, what we bring forward is really changing the template of the human prototype. And so it's fundamentally, because everything's entangled and connected, is informing the suppressed trauma in another group. And that's being brought to the surface very quickly without a chance for those groups to even consciously process what's happening for them. So translation, externally, it just looks like anger, right? So it almost looks like a ping pong machine, right? Where this is triggering that, is triggering this, is triggering that. So it's just going to be a giant world trigger festival for a while to come. And again, as I always talk about, it's so important to stay out of the us and them and just move back into the we. We are all in this together. And that's really important, very important to keep in mind. I cannot stress this enough. At the end of the day, while there certainly are things happening in this dimension and beyond that you could consider power over others, there's only we. And if we continue to stay in the narrative of we're going to win, we will only perpetuate the same level of evolutionary progress, if you will, that is pretty much just the same thing that we've been doing here. There's not much that moves. And this can be really tricky, because I think that many of us on an awakening path can sometimes forget that the awakening continues and the consciousness unfoldment continues. And so if you got stuck in one level and that's truth for you, I would just say, remember that it keeps going. And what I can feel the energy coming through. This is such an important message. It has to move beyond the us and them, or our planet, our race will not evolve, period. There's just end of discussion. That's how that's going to work. Whew. I think I got a little co-opted there by the Arcturians, who really just really want people to understand this. I certainly have spent time in that kind of light warrior period, but that's actually not the energetic container that's going to take us to this next evolved level. And they're saying, like, they can hear that a lot of people are wondering some questions about that. The reason why that is the case is because the container of the all, of the unconditional love and forgiveness and holding the one, is a powerful container for alchemy to happen within, versus when you're in just one aspect of the one. There's none of that beautiful higher dimensional alchemy can really happen. There can't be energetic dissolution and forgiveness at levels, higher dimensional levels that, we may not even be aware of. So this shifting our container into unity collective goes far beyond this narrative of us and them and vanquishing and winning. That just can't be the narrative anymore. So things more like, even disclosure has got a lot of baggage associated with it now. When I hear disclosure now, sometimes I think of I see like a Band-Aid being ripped off, which can be re-traumatizing for people. You never want to resurface somebody's, or shove something very confrontational into someone's face before they're ready to see it. Likely they'll just reject it anyway as a coping mechanism. But two, you can really create mental breaks, even physical illness that way. So that's not healthy. It's much more about, the disclosure, it's much more about a bit of disruption, which we're in. Whoa, wait a minute. Things aren't what they used to be. And then it's allowing all of this energetic information of suppressed pain, suffering, emotions to surface. That's the most powerful thing we can do at the individual level and at the collective level, is to create a container of oneness for all of that to start to move forward. The truth is, and I may get some pushback on this, so let me just make sure I'm tuning in. Yeah, no, it's absolute confirmation. So the inverted matrix, well, I used to think of it as an overlay that was very oppressive. I've come to understand that it is our own field of consciousness. And when you understand that, you can reverse the inverse like that, right? You can shift, you can flip the script, right? Everything can change. It's when we move out of our multidimensional self and understand ourselves as this beautiful plasmic field of consciousness that we lose our ability to see ourselves as powerful creators who can reorganize reality, right? And it's not our place to do it for others, right? Because sometimes I can hear people being like, yeah, but what if others are yeah, that's their journey. That's their experience of the law of cause and effect and how that goes for them. Our journey is really about coming back into this greater field of consciousness that we are, and then beginning to flip everything. And what the Arcturians are showing me now is that the most powerful script flip, I'll say that 10 times fast, that we can make is out of victim. So let's all work on that for the next couple of weeks. It's just, how do you flip out of victim? You feel like a victim, flip out of it. What's the empowered, 180 of that? A few years ago, I no longer was allowed to feel sorry for myself. My guides came in and said, this energetically is being removed from your field. And I remember this feeling of like, wait, but I need that. And then I realized, wow, I don't. And I'm so glad it's gone, because feeling sorry for oneself, that energetic construct of victim consciousness, is such a disempowering crutch, right? Hugely disempowering. So it's not that we don't feel things. We certainly can feel grief and pain and sorrow, anger, rage even, but it doesn't get caught in this kind of reverse. What they're showing me is like all the energy gets trapped and then comes back into your field and ends up anchoring you down. That's the difference between healthily processing and moving emotions through you versus getting caught in basically a soul trap of sorts, a consciousness trap. Okay. Whew. That was a lot of information that they wanted to bring through. Let me just tune in to see if there's anything else specifically on this topic of how are we going to actually make this evolution? It's not outside of us. The channel has asked us to speak to the 0 point. And while, of course, the 0 point is always the place to return to and create from, we recognize that many humans do not have a reference point for the 0 point. This is because so many of their neurological entanglements are running on a programmatic level that is not conscious, meaning it has not been voluntarily opted into, but rather is still connected into external inputs. Our best advice at this time is to disengage from those external inputs for a time. During this time, you may clear out the programming and replace it from your own direct connection with your own Godhead, your own repository or archives, as the channel said earlier. Using this inner information will fill your field and your conscious awareness with a plethora of options of what to think, feel, and do that you did not have before. You may return to the external inputs, the things you call news, eventually, but you need this break in order to retrain, reprogram, and expand your reference points. I'm thanking them as they back out. Thank you, Arcturians. Oh, it totally makes sense, doesn't it? So it's kind of taking a break from all the external, clear everything out, connect back into your own Godhead, start to bring in all your own multidimensional reference points and information, and then when you come back out into the news, you can see a situation much more clearly without a lot of the programming that you weren't even aware was running your show, so to speak. They're showing me also that a lot of these internal inputs of your multidimensional self will begin to help you also clear a lot of the trauma and pain that are distorting your vision. And this is why people can't sit with another person's pain, is because if they haven't cleared theirs, and that whole victim consciousness construct. So no problem. We'll just unplug, plug back in internally, and then shift our embodiment, right? So this is what I've been doing for the last 12 years or so. It makes a lot of sense to me. If you're new to this, don't worry. You have everything you need to do this. Your intuition, your intention are more powerful than you think they are. So just follow the breadcrumbs. You know, that's my journey. I look back and I went from being a hardcore skeptic to just, oh, this person showed up, this being showed up, this information showed up, and the rest kind of is history. You know, and so my energetic sensitivity now is very high, but it was not 10 years ago. So trust yourselves. If I were to leave you with anything today, it's to trust yourselves, right? And I brought my friends with me, and trust your friends, make some interdimensional friends. I've got my Sasquatch and Yeti friends today. Just try to keep it light as well. These are really intense times. But I think it's really helpful to have a greater context of what is happening. The polarities are really expressing themselves, and all that pain and trauma is coming up. So thank you all. Thanks again, Phil. Thanks for the 888. I'll just scroll here for a minute. Yeah, thanks, guys. Lovely, lovely to be here with you in person. It is the end of the show. So again, I hope to see you on the solstice, multidimensionalu.com. The link is right there at the top of the page to register for that event. And we're going to light it up. All right. Goodbye for now. Love you all.